second to get my thing up here. Let's see if it shows up on my phone. No, I didn't wait long enough. Hold on just a second. Thankfully, it's only like, 9 or 10 people who ever, that's the max that I've ever gotten. So it's fine. All right, now we're definitely live for sure.
All right.
So hi, everybody. Jeanne Casteen here, your Democratic candidate for Maricopa County School Superintendent. And today, one of my favorite people is joining me, a wonderful guy by the name of Jeff Fortney, who is a fellow educator like me, and who made the decision about a year ago to run for his school board in the Cave Creek Unified School District. So welcome, Jeff. It's nice to see your face.
Great to be here with you. Yeah, good to see you too. This has been a crazy time.
I have to say, Jeff is one of those really hardworking people who cares so much about local politics, about public education, that here I am running a countywide campaign, and it did not matter where I was. I was always seeing Jeff and his wife doing work to create some kind of positive change in the county of Maricopa. So I always refer to them as a power couple, and they're pretty much the hardest working couple that I know, I would say. There might be others, but I don't think it's true. But Jeff, just go ahead and introduce yourself and give us a little bit of background about yourself.
All right. Well, yeah, my name is Jeff, and I have been living in Arizona since 1999. I moved here when I was in a different line of work. I was in data processing at the time, and I love it here. It's the place to be. I've been teaching now for 15 years. 2002, I believe, I switched from systems programming, went back to school to get my degree in special ed, and have been teaching in that ever since. And I love it. Never, ever regret it. I've worked from kindergarten to 8th grade. Somehow never made it up to the high school, but I did work with high schools a little bit during my internship, and that was fun too, but it just hasn't, been there. So I've taught up in Cave Creek. I taught up here for 8 years, and then I was in Mesa for a year, downtown for a year, and I've been out in Deer Valley for the last 4. And now after this, I'm going to Tolleson next year.
Oh, I did not realize that you were moving districts. That's quite a drive. Big difference.
Yeah, it'll be fun, but I think it'll be worth it.
So is it Tolleson Elementary or Tolleson Unified?
Elementary.
Or yeah, right.
Yeah,
there's Tolleson, I'm sorry. Yeah. One of my good friends actually works in a Tolleson. That's the one with she's such a fantastic superintendent. There's a really great superintendent in Tolleson L.
Good.
Oh, I can't remember. Why is her name escaped? Oh, Lupita. She's a fantastic superintendent. And one of my friends that I started teaching with is actually a principal at one of the elementary schools there. Which school are you going to?
Arizona Desert.
Okay, so that's not, I know that's not the school, because hers is named like after a person or something like that. So anyway, I want to say hi real quick. T. Lambert is on watching us right now. She's actually a fantastic school board member in Glendale, right? Glendale. And of course, Mary's watching, Jeff's wife, former student of mine, Alfredo, and Nathan Levinsky, who's a super active Democrat here in Maricopa County. Really hard to change things for the better as well. Anyway, so that's exciting to be going to a new.
All right. Sorry. Go ahead.
Hey, you're fine. You know what? I'm like so new at this. If it's a little messy, that's okay. We're educators. We're used
That's right. We have 15 things going on at one time. That's how we write this. Yes.
All right. So tell us, where did you come from before this, Jeff? I never asked you.
I lived in Chicago area for basically all my life. Since I was 3, lived in the south suburbs, then in the west suburbs. And the last was in Bolingbrook, which is Downers Grove area. I was there for a long time. and worked downtown at Harris Bank downtown for the longest time until fate stepped in and moved me out here.
Well, I'm glad that fate stepped in because we need you more than Chicago does. Just saying.
I'm
So
good with
wait,
that.
here's a big test. Cubs or White Sox?
You know, when I was a kid, the Cubs were the only thing that was in my existence. I kind of grew out of it, and I was one of those Chicago people that left all that Chicago stuff behind. I was able to do that pretty good, although I was pretty pleased when they won the World Series. I was happy when the White Sox won, but by the time we left, we were doing more White Sox stuff than Cubs stuff.
Well, I won't hold that against you.
Good. Really jazzed about the Blackhawks winning the Stanley Cup, though. That was great every time that happened.
I don't really even watch hockey, but that was super fun to watch. We watched the whole thing, actually. So that was. So tell us, Jeff, what made you decide to run for your local school board?
Well, long story short, you and a few other people. Well, I'll back up a little bit. I got into the activism part of this job through the voucher thing. Remember, we were at an event and somebody came by and said, they're doing this crazy voucher thing. Would you be interested in getting signatures to stop it? And I was like, oh, okay, sure. And it took off. And so we were one of the people gathering the 111,000 signatures to stop the voucher expansion. And it just kind of took off from there. I got into other things, following politicians that actually, were paying attention to the education crisis here. I learned more and more about the education crisis because of that. I didn't know too much about it except for back around 2008, 2009, when we got hit up here in Cave Creek and we lost some teachers because they had to get let go. I barely made it. I just had enough seniority to get reassigned as opposed to let go. And that was my introduction to dealing with the legislators. I wrote a lot of letters to legislators talking about it. And I got some supportive ones and I got a lot that were not quite as supportive. So then that turned into Outlaw Dirty Money and other things that have a serious consequence to what's going on here in our schools, and looking for politicians that hold the same values that I do.
Yeah, 2008, that was the year that I got into teaching. And like I was saying with Nick, that we, every year, basically for, I don't know, 5 years, 6 years, we were just looking at what we were going to have to cut to be able to make ends meet. And it really shocked me that not everybody in the state makes public education a priority because, and I don't know what it was like for you growing up in a Chicago suburb, but for me, I had an absolutely wonderful K-12 education with amazing teachers, many of whom taught my older sisters, sometimes even my parents.
Mm-hmm.
That was just the way things were back then. And it's amazing to me that people don't see, that they don't have foresight to be able to understand how not fully funding our public education system will affect us as a state for generations to come. It's just mind-boggling.
Yeah, just going through some of the things that we did with some of the candidates, you learn about some of the things that you hear about all the tax loopholes that are in place for corporations, and you also learn that a lot of those corporations, they don't even care about those tax loopholes, but they're kind of getting them thrown at them. They care about a sustainable workforce, and they care about the schools that they send their kids to, and that has hurt us more than anything.
Yeah. Well, that's a really good segue into maybe talking a little bit about your platform. So what are the things that you hope to be able to accomplish, provide for students in high school district?
Well, what I'm looking to do is make sure that people are represented. I really want to do that because I've been going to the board meetings, and sometimes I feel like there's a bit of a disconnect sometimes between some of the concerns the parents have or the teachers have, and what gets heard. And I'd like to establish some sort of lines of communication so that when there are issues, there is a clear path that you can go to talk to somebody about it and hopefully get things resolved. That's one of the main things. But basically, everything that I'm running for is about the classroom, the education that goes on in the classroom, that students are challenged and they have the curriculum that they need, that the teachers have resources that they need and are treated like professionals, and that the community is heard when there are issues. In Cave Creek, one of the things that really has been a deal is that our bonds and overrides just don't pass. I don't know how much of it is apathy. I don't know how much of it is against the school district, but I feel, just in talking to some of the other people that I've talked to, Senator Martin Casada has been really cool with, giving me information about things, and a few other people. Um, there's a connection between the community and the school district that you can see and you can hear about when I talk to you and the things that you've done in your community and that Senator Casada did. And it's a different environment up here. The makeup is far different, but I still feel that there's a bit of a disconnect between the community and the district, or we wouldn't be having this problem. And so I'd like to venture into ways that we can establish better community so that when we do have to do a bond or override, which probably we'll have to do again very soon, I don't know 100% yet, but that maybe we can get it passed with some community support, rather than if we don't want to raise our taxes, so we're going to hold it down. Those are the main things.
And that's one of the things that ASBA, the Arizona School Board Association, always has on their legislative agenda is like, can we change the name of override to something else and have a better way of explaining it to the voters? Because I think a lot of times it's just perhaps a misunderstanding. I mean, I know that, people don't like, some people don't like, I like to pay taxes. I like to pay taxes. Some people don't like to. And so they have to understand the connection, because so one of the things I just found out, the reason why the Creek District doesn't get as much funding as perhaps other schools is because you guys also have a lot of unincorporated territories. And so that also affects your tax base. And so even though that, Cave Creek is perceived to be, a fancy, rich area, if those getting taxes from those unincorporated territories, that could make a big difference on the school, and perhaps communicating that to the voters. And when they actually see the connection of what their tax money is going to, then that could hopefully satisfy them enough to want to vote yes. Real quick, a former colleague of mine is on a great social studies teacher. We used to teach together, Marcos Hello, and Pete. Pete and I used to go to high school together. He had that benefit of a wonderful K-12 education as well. So let's see. One other thing that I really wanted to talk about, well, what is the current makeup of your board right now? Since you do live in, a very different area than Central Phoenix, I would imagine that it's probably a little bit more conservative. So what is that like?
The makeup right now, there's let's see, there's three women, 2 men. All of them are Republicans, except for one who was a Republican and is now independent. There is one educator on the board right now, a lady that I used to work with at one of the schools up here, and she is kind of the embodiment of what you and some of those other people said about how educators need to be on boards, because that sight that she's able to bring to what's going on in the classroom, when some of these things get brought up, and she can be like, whoa, no, the other folks don't have that perspective, and it's huge, and it has stopped some bad things from possibly getting passed, because she's able to say this will not work in the classroom. So that's how it is right now.
Yeah, and I'm actually glad that school board races are that they're nonpartisan. You know, it's going to be, so for those of you who don't know, your school board race is going to be all the way down at the bottom of the ballot.
All the way down.
And you won't have a cheat sheet that says R or D. You know, it's like the judges. You have to, like, I always call somebody that I know that works in the courts and say, who am I supposed to, like, who's a good person that's running for judge? I have no idea. And so you have to do your research on school boards. And, you know, I certainly don't want to, you know, it shouldn't be assumed that just, you know, that just because I'm a Democrat doesn't mean, you know, that I think that all Republicans are horrible people. That's certainly not the case, you know. and so I, you know, I think we have some really fantastic people who are independents, who are Republicans, and who really just want to serve. But the thing that you said that I think is most important is that we have educators on our board. You know, we're on the front lines. We know what some of our kids have to deal with when they go home. You know, I used the example the other day. I was talking to a teacher friend of mine, and she was, you know, trying to figure out where this kid was during Q4. He, you know, he wasn't showing up at Zoom meetings, and found out there's 11 people living in a 2-bedroom apartment. You know, some of our kids are, you know, we have kids who are McKinney-Vento and who are classified as homeless. I mean, in the Creighton School District, we have one school where we know of 125 students who are classified as homeless. And so, you know, as I don't care what letter comes after your name, as long as you understand what it means to be an educator or classified staff member on these campuses, and if you can remember hopefully what it's like to be a student, and if you can have the empathy to understand that not everybody comes to our schools with all of their needs met sometimes.
Yep, that's interesting that you say that, because that really got brought home to me before I actually got all the way through my teaching program. I spent a semester at the Pappas school downtown before it closed, and that was, you know, all homeless, and that was the most eye-opening thing that I've ever done. And so you didn't know what the kids were coming in with, and that mindset has really helped me, you know, through that. When you see kids that are struggling to do stuff, especially the kids that I work with that have, you know, all sorts of other issues too, you have to be aware of what they're dealing with, and you know, being able to form that relationship with the kids is the most important thing that I can do. And somehow trying to get that information to the powers that be, you know, at higher levels, needs to be taken into account.
Well, and you know, I want to say too that if there are any potential, you know, board candidates who are out there right now listening, I appreciate so much, Jeff, too, that you have started attending meetings, because I think sometimes too, people, you know, like the idea of running, and it's not necessary, it might not be an ego thing. It could be like, I want to serve my community. I feel like I could do a good job here. But if you are thinking about running for your board, you absolutely must start attending those board meetings so you have an understanding of the procedures, of the policies. All that stuff is super important. And when people, you know, just kind of run, make it on, you know, and they win their election, next thing you know, they're showing it up at a board meeting, and it's you know.
You can't, it was really came to light that, I mean, you can't go in there expecting to change the world right away. You have to work with the other 4 board members. You have to work with the superintendent. The superintendent and the board, you know, there's an accountability that you have to make sure is going on there, but it is a group function. I mean, you can bring your things, your ideas and your concerns to them, but it is a group that makes these decisions, and it is a huge deal that you have to work with that group. So that's important.
And that's not to say you shouldn't be critical, right? Like,
Right.
we should definitely be critical about what's happening in our districts, but we can also do it in a kind, respectful, and collaborative manner. And unfortunately, I've seen too often, you know, that some folks might think that, you know, it's about personalities, and instead of policies, you know, it's about policies.
Yeah.
So,
Yeah, that's a thing. And I've been approached by some folks that want to have some interesting discussions, and I have to tell them exactly that. the stuff that is on my website. It's out there. This is why I want to run. This is what I'm doing. I'm not getting into any personal issues that are going on with this stuff, because that's not what this is about. That was not even the forefront of my mind when I wanted to do this. It's like, educators need to be on board. That was it. That was the driving force, and that's what it will continue to be.
Well, I'm super glad that you put your hat in the ring. So I'm going to switch gears for just a second. And I want to talk about, because you and your wife, Mary, have done, this is how I met you. Actually, the first couple of times that I met you and Mary, actually, I think it was like a Indivisible at some church. You guys presented about, I think you were there on behalf of maybe SOS, actually, because you were.
Yeah, right. That was the first one. And we heard you talk and we went, who is this? And we've just been impressed ever since. So.
Oh, thanks. And so I knew, and while you were there, you also had petitions for Outlaw Dirty Money. So for, if you don't know what Outlaw Dirty Money is by now, well, you must have been living under a rock. Basically about getting all this dirty money out of our politics in Arizona. So tell us a little bit about your work there and where they are with their petitions.
Well, the Outlaw Dirty Money work that we do was a direct outgrowth from the Save Our Schools work that we did, because once Save Our Schools got all the signatures that they needed, out-of-state forces came swooping in like vultures to attack everything that they did. They took up an entire floor in a hotel to try and rip apart everything that they did, and they did lawsuit after lawsuit after lawsuit, trying to stop this thing. And when they finally ultimately failed, it left this big, huge, ugly mark saying, look at this, what dirty money is doing to this stuff. And so that became an outgrowth of that, because then the more you research that, the more frightening it gets, how much dirty money is coming into our state. Arizona is last in almost every single education category, but we are number one in dirty money coming into our politics. And so that's why we got in on that. We tried it back in 2018. It failed because of some interesting rulings, but Terry Goddard tried it again this time. And the status right now is that it's pretty much on hold. They tried some things to try and see if we could keep it going through this COVID thing, but they were, according to the powers that be, on track to get on the ballot. Then from March until now, basically you're not getting hardly any signatures. So they knew they wouldn't be able to make the 100,000 that they needed to get on the ballot. So they've tried the e-qual system. That got shut down for some things that had to do with how it's written in the Constitution. Questionable, but if it's good enough for legislators, why isn't it good enough for this? I don't know. That's I'm not a constitutional lawyer, but that's how that is. So what they're going to be trying to do now is seeing if they can somehow keep the signatures that they gathered this time and use them in 2022 to see if they can get them on the ballot then. I don't know what chance that has, since some of the powers that be that would be making that decision have been real good beneficiaries of dirty money. So I don't know how well that's going to work, but that's where it's at right now. So.
Wow, that's unfortunate to hear, man.
It is.
It's such a bummer too for all of our school board candidates. Now, how are you doing on your signatures for your school board candidacy?
Oh, yeah, I got a good start. I started way early, and so I've got more than I need right now. We're still, we've got some time until the 6th of July, so we'll try and bump it up a bit. And there's some other folks that really have their heart in the right place that we're going to try and get them some signatures too, and hopefully get them on the ballot too.
Okay. So for anybody who may live up in the Cave Creek area within the boundaries of the Cave Creek School District, Jeff, do you have a Facebook page?
I've got Facebook. I got the Elect Fortney Facebook page, but yeah, you can get in touch with me through that, or the electfortney@gmail.com. we need support. We need folks making phone calls. We need people gathering petitions. We're going to have a drive-in sign thing on the 31st to gather some signatures for some candidates, not just here, but from Paradise Valley and Scottsdale. We've got some kind of a little coalition that we're building to try and get some people to get some signatures that way with proper safety guards in place the whole time. So.
Yeah, we've been in the Creighton School District. I know that, we have, I think, 7 candidates, and I know that all of them have been working on getting, doing some safe signature drives. So I know that the Creighton candidates are going to be having another one. I have to post about it to make sure that everybody knows. But yeah, it's tough right now to get those signatures.
It is.
Yeah, and it's, it doesn't have to be that way. It's really frustrating. It just makes it, to me, a little bit more obvious that people are kind of okay with suppressing democracy. That's worrisome, right?
You gotta wonder, but I mean, it's really something that I was really getting into the canvassing thing I've been doing it for all sorts of people for the last couple of years, from governor's race to some local things here. But I was doing it in my neighborhood like crazy, right up until all of a sudden it was gone. And I was like, man, I really missed that. That was bad. So then yesterday I was out actually gathering some signatures, and it felt so good to do that again. Yeah. So that was great.
Now, will you have the Invest in Ed petitions at these various signature gathering things?
Yeah, we'll support those too. So we're going to be having those out there and available for folks that want to do that, because that would provide some funding that we desperately need. And now with this whole COVID thing and what that's going to end up looking like, Governor Ducey is going to have a lot of money coming in from the feds that can go to education. Hopefully he will put it in the right place, because in his State of the State address, he did say that we are a strong state by having strong public schools. And I hope he remembers that he said public schools on that, because that's important. And money needs to go there, or else they're in dire straits.
I will not hold my breath, just because I know that that Betsy DeVos is very eager to filter our hard-earned taxpayer dollars into private schools. She said so. She also has given Ducey basically the last say as to how the money is distributed. So I am not really going to take anything that is said about public education seriously. And I'm just going to work really hard to flip our legislature, because we've seen time and time again that we know which letter votes pro-education, pro-people issues, and we know which letter votes for the corporate interests, the private interests, to serve themselves. I want to say hi real quick, because one of my absolute favorite students, Karina, is on, and so I just want to say hi to Karina.
Hi, Karina.
And Karina, do you know Christina Bustos? She's really heavy in Invest in Ed. She's such a great teacher. She's in Mace Public Schools. Anyway, that's her former student as well. Yeah. I'm sorry. I'm like squirrel. So I bring it in sometime. All right. So we have a few minutes left just for fun. I know that you are you love the outdoors as much as my husband Rob and I love the outdoors. So
I got started on my bike yesterday. So I'm so jacked about this mountain bike. So that's fantastic. I went out there for the first time. I hurt my knee a while back, so I had to test it, and it's great. So now I just have to try and promise my wife that I will come back bleeding as little as possible.
Yeah, no, your knee healed up just in time for that 110-degree weather.
Yeah, right. Exactly right. But it's great. We go out. We live not too far from some state land out here, and I go out there. I've been doing it for years and years. That's been a real good thing. I've seen Gila monsters out there, javelinas and coyotes and jackrabbits like crazy. It's very cool. So a lot of rattlesnakes too. And we avoid each other, so that's always good. Right. But yeah, it's a lot of fun.
So is it hiking, backpacking, camping? Like, what is it, or all of the above?
The hiking mostly. We do a lot of hiking in various places around here, especially Mary is very big into the wildflowers when they go crazy in the spring. And we have some places like out around Bartlett Lake that just explode. And so what we do is we go to places where there are no paths, and we make our way. We say, look at that hill up there. It looks like it's covered. Let's go to that hill. And then when we get to the top of that hill, we're like, oh, look at that one over there. And so we just keep going and going and going. So we do that during the spring. And then other times we do some hills around here. Spur Cross, we've gone up there and done Elephant Mountain a lot of times. That's a great hike. So mostly that stuff.
I've seen some of Mary's pictures. Does she just use a regular camera or
Yeah.
phone? She takes really great pictures.
That's ours. Yeah.
She does really
Yeah,
well.
good.
Well, this really filled my bucket today because I miss seeing you and Mary on a regular basis, and
Yeah.
I can't wait until November 3rd and we get to have our victory celebration together.
That
And
is going to be so cool.
we're gonna flip the House, maybe even the Senate. We're gonna have 2 Democratic senators in the state of Arizona. It's gonna be amazing.
Yeah. Sounds good.
Right on.
Yes.
Well, thanks so much, Jeff. I appreciate you. I appreciate Mary. And
Likewise.
break a leg, but not really because
Go there.
I'll see you later, Jeff.
Okay, thank you.
Bye-bye.
Bye.